Hello everyone, and welcome. Today I'm going to take you on a journey through one of the greatest achievements in human history, the Great Wall of China. You've probably heard of it before, maybe even seen pictures, but the story behind this colossal structure is far more fascinating than most people realize. Over the course of many centuries, different dynasties, emperors, soldiers, and common people all contributed to its construction, expansion, and preservation. In this series, we'll dive deep into its history, starting right from the very beginning. So let's begin our journey into the past and uncover how the Great Wall of China truly came to be. Chapter 1: The First Walls of Ancient China. Long before the Great Wall of China became a singular, continuous monument stretching across mountains, deserts, and plains, early Chinese civilizations had already begun experimenting with defensive fortifications. These first walls, primarily constructed of tamped earth reinforced with wooden frameworks, were built to protect settlements, farmland, and emerging cities from northern nomadic tribes and rival kingdoms. They were not the massive, continuous stone barriers recognized today, but rather segmented, functional structures placed at strategic points, reflecting the military needs, political ambitions, and organizational skills of early Chinese states. During the Warring States period, between 475 and 221 BC, China was fragmented into numerous kingdoms including Qing, Zhao, Yan, Wei, and Han, each engaged in constant warfare to expand territory and secure resources. These rivalries necessitated robust defenses along northern and western frontiers, particularly against the nomadic horsemen whose mobility and ferocity posed a constant threat. The construction techniques of these early walls were simple yet surprisingly effective. Workers dug deep trenches to establish a stable foundation, then layered tamped earth mixed with straw or reeds to strengthen cohesion. Wooden scaffolding and frames helped maintain the wall shape as laborers compacted successive layers of earth with meticulous precision. In rocky regions, stones were incorporated to fortify weak points. The labor force comprised conscripted peasants, seasonal agricultural workers, and sometimes prisoners, all mobilized to meet the labor-intensive demands of wall construction. Temporary settlements near construction sites provided food, shelter, and logistical support, ensuring that thousands of workers could sustain long-term projects even in harsh and remote areas. Despite the limited materials and technology of the time, some early fortifications survived for centuries, demonstrating the ingenuity and perseverance of these early builders. Beyond their military purpose, these walls carried symbolic significance. They represented the authority of rulers and the organizational power of emerging states. By mobilizing large numbers of people to shape the landscape, leaders asserted control over territory and projected political power. The walls also served as psychological deterrents, signaling to both allies and enemies the presence of a structured, formidable authority. For local populations, contributing to wall building was a form of civic participation, linking human labor to state ambition and collective security. The lessons learned during this early period laid the groundwork for future dynasties, providing both conceptual and practical foundations for the monumental walls that would follow. As kingdoms united under the Qing dynasty, these initial fortifications would serve as the basis for a more ambitious vision, a continuous barrier capable of defending an entire empire. The early walls, though modest in scale, demonstrated the potential of coordinated human effort, strategic placement, and engineering ingenuity. They were the prototypes of a defensive philosophy that valued not only protection, but also the projection of authority, state organization, and cultural identity. These walls were the first steps in a long story of human ambition, resilience, and the drive to leave a tangible mark on history. Chapter 2: The Rise of Qing and the First Unified Wall. The unification of China under Qin Shi Huang in 221 BCE marked a turning point in the history of fortifications. Unlike the fragmented kingdoms of the Warring States period, the Qing dynasty sought to consolidate territorial control under a central authority. This ambition extended to the northern frontier, where regional walls had been built by the former states of Zhao, Yan, and Qing to defend against nomadic incursions. Qin Shi Huang envisioned connecting these disparate walls into a continuous line of defense, a project unprecedented in scale and complexity. The emperor's goal was not merely defensive, it was also symbolic. By unifying the walls, he sought to demonstrate the power of a centralized state capable of organizing resources, labor, and military might on a scale that had never been seen before. The construction process required meticulous planning and extraordinary manpower. Tens of thousands of conscripted laborers, including peasants, soldiers, and prisoners, worked in harsh conditions across rugged terrain. Sections built from tamped earth were reinforced with wooden scaffolds, while stone was employed in mountainous regions for stability and durability. The labor was grueling, and mortality rates were high due to disease, accidents, and the extreme demands of the work. Temporary settlements near construction sites supplied food, shelter, and medical care, reflecting an early form of organized infrastructure to sustain large-scale projects. Workers were divided into teams specializing in earth compaction, stone placement, and wall shaping, ensuring that the project progressed efficiently despite the vast distances involved. The walls served multiple defensive purposes. Elevated platforms allowed archers to monitor and defend the frontier, while gates and choke points controlled the flow of people and livestock. Watchtowers placed at intervals enabled signals to be transmitted quickly across hundreds of kilometers, creating an early warning system against incursions. Despite the laborious construction, the walls alone could not guarantee security. They relied on coordination with mobile troops stationed along the frontier. In combining physical barriers with human vigilance, the Qing dynasty established a template for integrated military defense that would influence successive dynasties. Qin Shi Huang's wall also carried profound political significance. It was a tangible manifestation of the emperor's authority and the power of centralized governance. The sheer scale of the project impressed contemporaries and communicated a message of strength and permanence. Laborers, while often conscripted, participated in the creation of a structure that symbolized the unity and might of the Qing state. Even centuries later, the memory of these walls would inspire subsequent rulers to maintain and expand upon the concept, culminating in the magnificent Great Wall of the Ming Dynasty. Despite its ambition, the wall faced inherent challenges. Sections built from tamped earth were vulnerable to erosion from wind and rain, and maintenance over hundreds of kilometers proved difficult. Certain regions were sparsely defended due to terrain constraints, and isolated garrisons sometimes struggled to repel incursions. Yet the Qing Wall was revolutionary in its conceptual unity, linking previously isolated fortifications into a coherent system. It demonstrated that human ingenuity, labor organization, and centralized authority could transform defensive philosophy into a tangible reality, creating a model for centuries to come. Chapter 3: The Han Dynasty and the Silk Road Defense. Following the fall of the Qing dynasty, the Han Dynasty rose to power in 206 BC, inheriting the newly unified empire and its nascent defensive structures. Unlike the Qing, the Han Dynasty faced an expanded set of challenges. Northern nomadic tribes, particularly the Xiongnu, were highly mobile and capable of launching devastating raids. To safeguard the empire, Han rulers expanded existing fortifications, creating longer and more sophisticated walls that stretched across deserts, mountains, and river valleys. These walls not only served military purposes, but also facilitated the protection of trade along the Silk Road, ensuring the safe passage of merchants and goods that connected China to Central Asia and beyond. Han engineers extended the walls into previously unfortified regions, using tamped earth mixed with reeds or straw to enhance structural integrity. In mountainous areas, stone was incorporated to stabilize the walls and prevent collapse. Military garrisons were established at regular intervals, with watchtowers providing vantage points for monitoring enemy movements. Soldiers patrolled the walls, coordinating with local administrators to respond quickly to raids. The integration of permanent military installations with physical barriers represented a significant advancement over the Qing approach, combining mobility and defense with long-term territorial control. Trade along the Silk Road became a primary consideration in wall expansion. Caravans transporting silk, spices, and precious metals relied on secure routes, and the walls provided both protection and psychological assurance. The presence of fortifications reduced the risk of ambush, allowed for the establishment of checkpoints, and facilitated taxation and monitoring of goods. This dual role, military and economic, highlighted the strategic sophistication of Han policymakers, who understood that border security was inseparable from the prosperity of the empire. Labor for the Han walls was organized on a massive scale. Peasants, artisans, and soldiers were mobilized seasonally, often during periods when agricultural work was impossible. Temporary settlements along the walls provided housing, food, and logistical support, creating a network of small communities dedicated to sustaining construction and maintenance. Advanced surveying techniques were employed to ensure that the walls followed strategic routes, taking advantage of natural barriers while minimizing labor-intensive alterations to the landscape. The Han Dynasty also placed cultural and symbolic significance on the walls. Beyond their practical function, they represented the reach and power of the central government. Laborers who contributed to their construction were part of a collective effort that reinforced social cohesion and loyalty to the state. The wall served as a tangible expression of imperial authority, a visible marker of civilization against the perceived chaos of the northern steppes. Over time, the Han walls became a blueprint for future dynasties. Their combination of military strategy, economic protection, and symbolic power demonstrated the enduring utility of large-scale fortifications. They showed that walls could serve not merely as barriers, but as instruments of governance, trade security, and cultural identity. This philosophy would resonate in later periods, particularly during the Ming Dynasty, when the Great Wall reached its most famous and enduring form. Chapter 4: Period of Fragmentation and Decline. After the fall of the Han Dynasty, China entered a period of political fragmentation that lasted for several centuries. Central authority weakened, and the vast network of walls along the northern frontier, carefully maintained by the Han, gradually fell into disrepair. Regional kingdoms, warlords, and short-lived dynasties inherited segments of the fortifications, but without unified oversight, the defensive structures became patchy and inconsistent. Sections of walls crumbled under wind and rain, watchtowers collapsed, and erosion took its toll on earthen embankments. Local populations sometimes repurposed the materials for houses, farming terraces, and temples, further diminishing continuity. This period illustrated that walls, no matter how monumental, depended on coordinated administration, labor, and defense to remain effective. Despite these challenges, some local rulers continued to recognize the importance of fortifications, particularly around strategic passes, cities, and fertile regions. In these areas, walls were reinforced or rebuilt, but construction was usually sporadic and focused on immediate military needs rather than comprehensive defense. The northern tribes, recognizing the disunity of China's fragmented states, often bypassed weakened walls or launched raids that demonstrated the limitations of isolated fortifications. The era revealed the evolving relationship between static defenses and mobile warfare, highlighting the necessity for coordination between walls, garrisons, and intelligence networks. Even as sections of the walls decayed, knowledge of construction techniques persisted. Engineers, builders, and laborers retained expertise in tamped earth, stone layering, and structural reinforcement. Manuals and oral traditions continue to circulate, preserving the methods that would later enable dynasties such as the Ming to undertake large-scale reconstruction projects. The walls of this era were as much a repository of human ingenuity as physical defense, a testament to the accumulated knowledge of centuries. Culturally, the fragmented walls continue to symbolize the authority of local rulers, even if their practical utility was diminished. They were markers of territory, symbols of civic pride, and points of strategic control. The period of decline underscored the interplay between political unity and military infrastructure. Without a strong central state, even the most ambitious fortifications could not maintain their effectiveness. This lesson would inform future dynasties, which sought to balance monumental construction with centralized administration and organized military defense. By the end of this period, the stage was set for the resurgence of wall building under more centralized dynasties. The lessons learned from fragmentation, decay, and selective reconstruction provided critical insights into logistics, labor organization, and the integration of walls with military and administrative structures. These insights would prove essential for the great projects of the later Ming Dynasty, which would transform the Great Wall into the continuous, fortified system recognized around the world today. Chapter 5: The Han Dynasty, the first great unification of the wall. After the collapse of the Qing Dynasty in 206 BC, China experienced a period of political instability and fragmentation. Regional warlords fought for control, and the once imposing frontier defenses left by Qing fell into neglect. Amid this turbulence, Liu Bang emerged victorious, founding the Han Dynasty in 202 BCE. The Han rulers inherited not only the lands of their predecessors, but also the challenges of securing a vast northern frontier against the formidable Xiongnu nomads. The northern steppe had long been a source of insecurity, and the new dynasty faced the urgent task of protecting its borders while consolidating power across the empire. This necessity gave rise to one of the most ambitious and sustained expansions of the Great Wall in Chinese history. Emperor Wu of Han, ruling from 141 to 87 BC, recognized that diplomacy alone would not suffice. While earlier Chinese states often relied on alliances, tributes, and marriage pacts to appease the nomads, Wu sought a more permanent solution. The Han Dynasty mobilized massive resources to reinforce, extend, and unify existing fortifications, transforming fragmented walls into a coordinated defensive system. Construction stretched across deserts, mountains, and river valleys, demanding extraordinary logistical planning. Supplies of grain, tools, and water had to reach remote outposts, and a steady workforce of soldiers, conscripted peasants, and laborers maintained the momentum of the project. Temporary settlements arose along the wall, functioning as both construction bases and defensive garrisons. The Han walls were built primarily of tamped earth, occasionally reinforced with stone and wooden frameworks in regions where materials allowed. The method required layering soil and compacting it to create solid embankments capable of withstanding erosion and attacks. Each segment of the wall was carefully aligned with natural terrain, following mountain ridges and riverbanks to maximize defensive advantage. The construction process was arduous. Workers faced scorching summers, freezing winters, and treacherous landscapes. Mortality was high, and many laborers perished due to exhaustion, illness, or accidents. Yet despite these hardships, the wall grew to unprecedented scale, establishing a defensive line that connected key strategic passes and regions along the northern frontier. Beyond its physical presence, the Han Wall served critical military functions. Beacon towers were constructed at intervals to relay signals through smoke by day and fire by night, allowing rapid communication across vast distances. Garrison troops monitored movement along the frontier, deterred raiding parties, and could respond quickly to incursions. The wall functioned as a force multiplier, enabling the empire to extend control over remote regions without stationing massive armies continuously along every stretch. While the Xiongnu remained elusive and highly mobile, the wall imposed logistical constraints, slowing raids and forcing the nomads to expend greater effort to circumvent these fortifications. The wall's significance extended beyond military considerations. The Heshi Corridor, a critical passage through the northwestern deserts, became a lifeline for trade and cultural exchange. Protecting this corridor enabled the flow of goods that would later define the Silk Road, including silk, jade, and spices. The Han Dynasty's frontier defenses created safe passage for merchants, diplomats, and envoys traveling westward. In this way, the Great Wall facilitated the first large-scale integration of China into broader Eurasian networks, linking distant cultures and economies. It was both a barrier and a bridge, a protective boundary and a channel for commerce and cultural interaction. Life along the wall was harsh but complex. Soldiers stationed in remote outposts lived in mud brick barracks and survived on grain rations, dried meat, and occasional livestock. Archaeological discoveries of wooden slips reveal detailed records of daily life, inventory logs, punishment records, and even informal notes reflecting boredom, complaints, and personal reflections. These documents provide a vivid glimpse into the human dimension of frontier life, showing how ordinary individuals coped with the demands of imperial ambition. In addition to soldiers, laborers and engineers maintained the wall, repairing erosion, reinforcing embankments, and building watchtowers. The frontier became a living network, combining military vigilance, engineering expertise, and bureaucratic oversight. Despite its scale and complexity, The Han Wall was not impenetrable. Highly mobile nomadic forces could sometimes bypass the fortifications, attacking weaker points or raiding areas between garrisons. Nevertheless, the psychological and strategic impact of the wall was profound. For local populations, it provided a sense of security and stability. For the empire, it was a tangible manifestation of state authority, stretching across deserts and mountains like an unbroken line of power. For the Xiongnu and other nomadic groups, it represented a formidable obstacle, shaping their tactics and strategic planning for generations. The construction of the Han Wall required an unprecedented mobilization of resources and labor. Tens of thousands of peasants were conscripted from throughout the empire, leaving fields and families behind. Soldiers provided both manpower and military oversight, ensuring that work progressed according to imperial directives. Engineers and officials coordinated the logistics of construction, distributing materials, organizing labor shifts, and maintaining morale. This massive undertaking reflected the centralized administrative capacity of the Han Dynasty, demonstrating that the empire could direct vast populations toward a single, coordinated purpose across immense distances. As the Han Dynasty reached the height of its power, the Great Wall stretched for thousands of kilometers, though it was not continuous in the manner of later Ming fortifications. Instead, it comprised a network of interconnected walls, trenches, beacon towers, and garrison stations. Some sections climbed steep mountain ridges, others crossed arid deserts, and still others followed the contours of river valleys. This network allowed the empire to maintain a dynamic defensive posture. It slowed invasions, enabled rapid communication, and provided strong points for concentrated military response. The wall was as much a tool of control and administration as it was a barrier to invaders. The cultural significance of the wall was equally notable. It symbolized imperial ambition, technological innovation, and the ability of the state to organize vast human and material resources. It was a demonstration of the Han Dynasty's reach and endurance, a monument to the determination to safeguard the empire against external threats. Stories of hardship and heroism along the frontier circulated in imperial chronicles and folk tales, cementing the wall's place in the collective memory of the Chinese people. It became a testament to the labor, ingenuity, and sacrifice required to build and maintain a civilization at the edges of the known world. By the end of the Han Dynasty in the 3rd century CE, much of the wall had suffered from neglect, erosion, and internal strife. However, its legacy endured. The Han walls established the principles of frontier defense that would guide future dynasties: strategic placement along natural terrain, integration of garrisons and signaling systems, and the fusion of military and administrative functions. They also linked China to the broader world through trade and cultural exchange, laying the foundations for the Silk Road and subsequent global interactions. The Han Dynasty's unification and expansion of the wall was a defining achievement, transforming a collection of regional fortifications into a coordinated imperial system that shaped the course of Chinese and world history. Even today, the remnants of Han-era watchtowers and wall sections stand as silent witnesses to the ambition, skill, and endurance of the people who built them. They remind us that the Great Wall is more than a physical structure. It is a narrative of human effort, resilience, and the desire to create enduring symbols of power and protection. The Han Dynasty's contribution was foundational, demonstrating that through organization, vision, and determination, a civilization could extend its influence across vast and challenging landscapes, leaving a legacy that would inspire generations to come. Chapter 6: Decline and Fragmentation. From the Three Kingdoms to the Tang Dynasty. The fall of the Han Dynasty in 220 CE ushered in a period of profound instability across China. For centuries, the Han had maintained a unified empire, with bureaucratic structures, frontier defenses, and a centralized military system. Yet, internal corruption, heavy taxation, and repeated peasant uprisings had weakened the imperial authority. Upon the emperor's death, regional generals, warlords, and ambitious officials seized control of various provinces, and the once unified empire fractured into what historians would later call the Three Kingdoms period: Wei, Shu, and Wu. In this era, the northern frontier that had been meticulously reinforced during the Han Dynasty suffered greatly. Sections of the Great Wall fell into neglect, with some stretches entirely abandoned. Labor and resources were diverted to ongoing civil wars, leaving fortifications vulnerable to the Xiongnu and other nomadic groups who continued to raid the northern and northwestern borders. Despite the political chaos, the legacy of the Han Wall persisted. Many local officials recognized the strategic importance of maintaining frontier defenses, even in times of instability. They repaired stretches of earthwork walls, constructed temporary garrisons, and organized militias to patrol the borderlands. Yet, these efforts were often localized and inconsistent, dependent on the resources and ambitions of individual warlords rather than a unified imperial command. Consequently, the northern frontier became a patchwork of fortified positions, some robust, others barely distinguishable from ruined earthen embankments. The cohesion and continuity achieved under the Han Dynasty was lost, and with it, much of the effectiveness of the wall as a unified barrier. As centuries passed, northern China witnessed cycles of construction and decay. The Qing dynasty briefly reunited the empire in the 3rd century, but its control was tenuous, and invasions from the north persisted. During the 16 Kingdoms period, 304 to 439 CE, the northern frontier became a dynamic theater of conflict between Chinese states and nomadic groups, including the Xianbei and later the Rouran. Wall segments were hastily repaired, often using local labor, but the political fragmentation meant that no coordinated plan existed to defend the entire frontier. Many sections were abandoned as resources were redirected to military campaigns, taxation, or rebuilding cities damaged by warfare. The Sui dynasty, 581 to 618 CE, attempted to restore unity across China, including the northern frontiers. They undertook large-scale projects to reconnect fragmented wall sections and fortify passes along strategic routes, particularly the Heshi Corridor and the Ordos Plateau. The Sui emperors recognized the dual role of the wall. It was both a defensive structure and a symbol of the central authority of the empire. However, the Sui were short-lived. Internal revolts, heavy conscription, and ambitious military campaigns exhausted the population. Many of the Sui wall projects were left incomplete or fell into disrepair shortly after construction. The northern frontier, while partially reinforced, remained a vulnerable and contested zone. It was during the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 CE, that the northern frontier assumed a more complex character. The Tang emperors were skilled at combining military campaigns, diplomacy, and strategic alliances to manage relations with nomadic neighbors. They deployed troops along key passes and trade routes. But the wall itself was no longer the primary defensive line. Instead, the Tang relied on a combination of cavalry patrols, fortified towns, and negotiated submission of northern tribes to secure the empire. Nevertheless, wall remnants from the Han and Sui periods continued to serve as logistical guides and deterrents. Beacon towers and earthwork fortifications were maintained where necessary, particularly along the Heshi corridor, which remained vital for trade and military movements. The wall's role had shifted. It was less a continuous barrier and more an integrated component of a broader system of frontier defense and governance. Trade and cultural exchange continued to flourish during this era. The Tang Dynasty's Silk Road network expanded, linking China with Central Asia, India, and beyond. Cities like Chang'an and Dunhuang became hubs of commerce, religion, and knowledge. The northern frontier, once solely a zone of conflict, became a conduit for merchants, pilgrims, and envoys. Frontier fortifications, including sections of the Great Wall, were adapted to protect not only against raiders, but also to secure trade routes and facilitate the movement of armies and supplies. The wall, in this sense, had evolved from a purely military structure into a multifunctional instrument of empire, blending defense, administration, and commerce. Despite these adaptations, the wall faced persistent challenges. Nomadic groups, now more organized and mobile than ever, developed strategies to bypass or breach fortifications. Seasonal raids continued, testing the responsiveness of garrisons and local militias. Frontier populations endured cycles of scarcity and disruption, as armies moved through fields and towns to respond to threats. The wall's condition varied. Some segments were reinforced and patrolled diligently, while others eroded under wind, rain, and neglect. This uneven maintenance reflected the broader political and social realities of a sprawling empire. Even at the height of Tang power, central authority could not guarantee uniform management across vast, remote regions. The Tang period also witnessed technological and administrative innovations that influenced frontier defense. Military governors, judushi, were appointed to manage border regions, integrating civil administration and military command. Roads were improved to allow rapid troop movement, and courier networks ensured swift communication between the frontier and the imperial court. Where sections of the wall remained intact, they were incorporated into this larger system, serving as anchor points for garrisons and signaling stations. The wall, therefore, was no longer a standalone defense. It was embedded within a sophisticated imperial infrastructure designed to monitor and manage the northern frontier. By the end of the Tang Dynasty, the northern frontier had undergone profound transformations. The wall had shifted from a continuous, physically imposing barrier built to repel invaders into a network of strategic positions, garrisons, and signaling stations. Its role was adapted to the realities of political fragmentation, nomadic mobility, and the evolving needs of empire. Although sections of the original Han Wall were damaged or abandoned, the legacy of those earlier constructions persisted. They provided a template for military engineering, informed imperial strategy, and left an enduring imprint on the cultural memory of China as a civilization capable of monumental achievement. The story of the wall during the decline and fragmentation of China demonstrates the resilience of infrastructure even amidst political chaos. It highlights how human ingenuity, military necessity, and cultural memory intertwine to preserve knowledge and influence long after dynasties rise and fall. While the wall could not stop all invasions or resolve all conflicts, it shaped the strategic imagination of rulers and warriors for centuries to come. Its evolution from the Han Dynasty through the Three Kingdoms, the 16 Kingdoms, and into the Tang era underscores its dual nature as both a physical barrier and a symbol of imperial authority, reflecting the complexities of governing a vast and diverse empire. Chapter 7: Yuan Dynasty. Neglect under Mongol rule. By the time the Mongols, under Kublai Khan, established the Yuan dynasty in 1271 CE, the Great Wall had already stood for more than a millennium, evolving through successive dynasties, from the early earthworks of the Qing to the extensive Han networks. However, the nature of frontier defense under Mongol rule changed dramatically. The Yuan dynasty, unlike its Chinese predecessors, was ruled by a nomadic elite whose power rested on cavalry mobility and steppe warfare rather than static fortifications. In the eyes of the Mongol rulers, long walls were less significant. Their armies could traverse vast distances on horseback, respond quickly to uprisings, and intimidate enemies through rapid, mobile campaigns. Consequently, the Great Wall's strategic importance diminished under the Yuan, and large sections of it began to fall into neglect. During the Yuan period, northern China experienced relative stability not because walls repelled invaders, but because the Mongol Empire controlled both China and the territories of the steppes. The Xianbei Mongols and other nomadic groups that had once posed threats to sedentary Chinese dynasties were now incorporated into the empire. The frontier was no longer a line of defense against raiders, but an area within a vast, interconnected imperial network. Resources that might have been dedicated to wall maintenance were instead redirected toward administrative projects, taxation, and support of the Mongol military apparatus. The once continuous fortifications were left to deteriorate under the elements, with watchtowers crumbling and earthen embankments eroding under wind and rain. Despite this neglect, some frontier garrisons remained functional. Yuan administrators maintained forts at strategic passes, especially near mountain ranges and key trade routes. These forts served as collection points for taxes, control stations for local populations, and bases for military patrols. However, the comprehensive system of interconnected walls envisioned by earlier dynasties was no longer realized. The once cohesive defensive network became fragmented, and in many areas, centuries of erosion reduced the walls to barely discernible ridges in the landscape. Villagers often scavenged bricks and stones from abandoned sections, repurposing them for homes, temples, or roads. Over time, the Great Wall under the Yuan dynasty existed more as a historical relic than an active military installation. The Mongol approach to frontier security emphasized diplomacy and rapid military action over static barriers. Where Chinese dynasties had relied on garrisons and watchtowers to monitor nomadic incursions, the Yuan deployed mounted forces capable of striking swiftly across hundreds of kilometers. The empire relied on intelligence networks, local auxiliaries, and alliances with neighboring tribes to maintain control over its northern territories. The physical wall, while once central to imperial strategy, became secondary to mobility, communication, and flexible troop deployment. As a result, the Mongols left the wall largely to the forces of nature, and its maintenance declined. Yet, the Yuan dynasty preserved the knowledge and techniques of wall construction, even if they did not prioritize its upkeep. Engineers, builders, and administrators retained records of how earlier dynasties had designed watchtowers, coordinated garrisons, and moved supplies along remote sections of the frontier. This institutional memory proved invaluable for future Chinese dynasties. When the Ming dynasty rose in the 14th century, it inherited not only the remnants of the wall itself, but also the technical and organizational knowledge necessary to reconstruct and expand it on an unprecedented scale. The Yuan period, while marked by neglect, became an interlude in which the Great Wall's legacy persisted quietly, awaiting the resurgence of defensive priorities. Culturally, the wall continued to hold symbolic meaning, even under Mongol rule. Local populations, historians, and scholars remembered the wall as a marker of Chinese authority and civilization, a testament to the ingenuity and labor of generations past. Even if the Mongol rulers were less invested in its upkeep, the memory of the wall's protective power remained alive in Chinese consciousness. This awareness helped inspire the massive reconstruction campaigns of later centuries, particularly during the Ming dynasty, when fear of renewed northern incursions prompted a return to large-scale fortification. The neglect of the Great Wall during the Yuan era also reveals broader lessons about the interplay between technology, strategy, and culture. When the Mongols relied on mobile cavalry and administrative control, the wall's static defense became less relevant. Its physical presence could not substitute for rapid, flexible military capabilities. Nevertheless, the wall's continued existence, even in a deteriorated state, maintained a latent defensive and psychological function. For local populations, the remnants offered protection from smaller raids, and for the empire, they remained potential assets should the need arise to reestablish formal fortifications. In many ways, the Yuan period represents a transitional chapter in the wall's history. It was an era in which the wall was deprioritized, yet its heritage was carefully preserved in memory, records, and local practices. The knowledge of construction, garrisoning, and strategic placement endured, setting the stage for future dynasties to revive, improve, and expand the wall with new materials, techniques, and military doctrine. The Yuan dynasty's oversight demonstrates that even in periods of neglect, monumental structures can survive when their cultural, historical, and strategic significance is understood by successive generations. By the end of the Yuan dynasty, the northern frontier remained vulnerable to small-scale incursions, but the wall itself was poised for renewal. The Ming rulers, emerging from the chaos of Yuan decline, would look upon the neglected walls with both respect and determination. They recognized the potential of the wall as a defensive backbone for the empire, and sought to transform it into the formidable structure that endures in the modern imagination. The Yuan dynasty, while leaving the wall physically diminished, thus played a crucial role in bridging the gap between ancient defensive efforts and the comprehensive fortifications of later centuries. The story of the Great Wall under Mongol rule teaches that monumental architecture is never solely about immediate utility. Its value can be cultural, historical, and symbolic, preserving knowledge and inspiration for future generations. Even when walls crumble and towers collapse, the lessons embedded in their construction, the methods of organization, the logic of placement, and the experience of labor remain, ready to be rediscovered and enhanced by those who follow. The Yuan dynasty's period of neglect, paradoxically, ensured that the wall's heritage would survive to inform the next great era of Chinese fortification. Chapter 8: Ming Dynasty, Reconstruction and Expansion. The fall of the Yuan dynasty in 1368 brought profound changes to China's political and military landscape. The Ming Dynasty, founded by Yuan arose from rebellion and civil war, determined to restore native Chinese rule after nearly a century of Mongol dominance. One of the earliest priorities of the Ming emperors was to secure the northern frontier. The neglected walls left behind by the Han, Sui, Tang, and Yuan periods were insufficient to protect the empire from renewed threats from the steppes. For the Ming, the Great Wall was not merely a relic of the past. It became a central element of statecraft, military strategy, and imperial symbolism. Reconstructing and expanding the wall would consume centuries of labor and resources, reshaping the northern landscape in ways that endure to this day. From the outset, the Ming rulers approached the task with unprecedented ambition and organization. The frontier faced renewed pressures from Mongol and other nomadic groups who had regrouped after the Yuan collapse. Unlike previous dynasties, the Ming possessed both the technical knowledge and the political will to create a continuous and formidable line of defense. Engineers studied the remnants of older walls, adapting proven techniques while incorporating innovations such as stone and brickwork, which were far more durable than the tamped earth of earlier eras. The Ming walls were wider, taller, and more resilient, designed to withstand both the elements and potential assaults by organized cavalry forces. Construction of the Ming Wall was a massive undertaking. Labor forces numbered in the hundreds of thousands, including soldiers, conscripted peasants, artisans, and even prisoners. Logistics were complex. Supplies of food, water, timber, and stone had to be transported across mountains, rivers, and deserts. Temporary settlements emerged along construction zones, functioning as living quarters, workshops, and storage depots. Villages and towns near the frontier were heavily involved, providing both manpower and materials. The scale of the project reflected the Ming vision of centralized authority, a dynasty capable of marshaling immense human and material resources to create a lasting symbol of power and protection. Strategically, the Ming walls were designed to integrate natural terrain with man-made defenses. Mountain ridges, river valleys, and cliffs were incorporated into the layout, maximizing the defensive advantages of geography. Watchtowers and beacon towers were spaced at regular intervals, enabling rapid communication through smoke by day and fire by night. Fortified garrisons were established at critical passes, while battlements allowed soldiers to repel attackers from elevated positions. The Ming Wall was no longer a simple barrier. It was a complex system of observation, defense, and command capable of supporting coordinated military operations across thousands of kilometers. The wall also reflected the Ming approach to frontier governance. Beyond military function, it served as a marker of Chinese authority and an instrument of control over local populations. Settlements along the wall were monitored, and local militias were integrated into the defensive system. Roads were constructed to allow rapid movement of troops and supplies, linking garrisons to the central government. In this way, the wall became both a physical and administrative backbone of the northern frontier, reinforcing the Ming dynasty's ability to project power and maintain order in remote regions. Life along the Ming Wall was arduous but organized. Soldiers stationed at remote posts endured harsh winters and blistering summers, relying on carefully coordinated supply lines to survive. Barracks and forts provided shelter, while grain, dried meat, and other rations sustained the troops. Frontier life demanded discipline, resilience, and ingenuity. Soldiers and laborers adapted to the challenging environment, repairing damaged walls, reinforcing watchtowers, and patrolling vast stretches of countryside. Historical records and archaeological findings reveal a complex system of labor rotation, medical care, and logistical support that enabled the Ming Wall to function effectively despite the harsh conditions. The Ming Wall also facilitated trade and cultural exchange along the northern borders. Markets emerged in proximity to garrisons, attracting merchants and travelers. Caravans transporting silk, grain, horses, and other goods benefited from the security provided by the wall, which deterred raiding parties and created a stable environment for commerce. Cultural diffusion occurred alongside military activity. Artisans, scholars, and officials stationed along the frontier contributed to a vibrant exchange of knowledge, technology, and customs. In this sense, the Ming Wall functioned not only as a barrier against potential invaders, but also as a channel for economic and cultural integration. Despite the wall's impressive construction and strategic design, it was not impervious. Nomadic raiders occasionally found gaps, scaled walls, or exploited weaknesses in less defended regions. Maintaining vigilance across such a vast frontier was an ongoing challenge, requiring constant reinforcement and adaptation. Nevertheless, the Ming Dynasty's systematic reconstruction and expansion represented the most ambitious and successful effort in Chinese history to create a continuous and durable northern defense. The wall's presence deterred large-scale incursions, reinforced imperial authority, and symbolized the enduring strength of the Chinese state. Over time, the Ming Wall became a cultural icon as well as a military necessity. It embodied the technical prowess, organizational capacity, and determination of the Ming emperors and their subjects. Scholars, poets, and travelers reflected on its grandeur, often emphasizing the human effort, sacrifice, and ingenuity required to create such an imposing structure. The wall served as a tangible expression of imperial vision, linking generations of rulers and citizens through a shared understanding of duty, protection, and national identity. By the end of the Ming Dynasty in the 17th century, the Great Wall had achieved its most complete and recognizable form. It stretched across mountains, plains, and deserts, a continuous line of fortifications interspersed with watchtowers, garrisons, and beacon stations. Its reconstruction and expansion demonstrated the capacity of a centralized state to mobilize vast resources, apply sophisticated engineering techniques, and maintain control over a sprawling and diverse frontier. The Ming Wall not only protected China from external threats, but also shaped the cultural and historical imagination, leaving a legacy that endures in the modern world as one of the most iconic monuments of human achievement. The Ming Dynasty's efforts solidified the Great Wall as a symbol of Chinese resilience, strategy, and unity. It exemplified the fusion of military necessity with cultural significance, ensuring that the wall would remain a central feature of China's identity long after the empire itself had faded. Its reconstruction marked the culmination of centuries of evolution, combining the wisdom of previous dynasties with innovative techniques and organization, and setting the stage for the wall's enduring legacy as both a defensive marvel and a testament to human ambition. Chapter 9: Decline of the Wall, Late Ming and Qing Periods. By the late Ming Dynasty, the Great Wall had reached the height of its construction and strategic development. Stretching across mountains, deserts, and plains, fortified with watchtowers, battlements, and garrisons, it symbolized Chinese power and the empire's ability to organize and sustain monumental projects. Yet, As the 16th and 17th centuries unfolded, the wall's effectiveness and maintenance began to decline due to a combination of political, economic, and military challenges. These centuries witnessed both the weakening of central authority and the shifting nature of threats from the northern steppes, signaling a period of transformation for the wall and its role in imperial China. Several factors contributed to the wall's gradual deterioration. Internally, the Ming dynasty faced mounting economic difficulties. Heavy taxation to fund military campaigns, bureaucratic inefficiency, and corruption weakened the central government's ability to allocate resources for frontier defense. Local garrisons often lacked sufficient supplies, and soldiers stationed at remote posts suffered from inadequate rations, poor equipment, and low morale. Natural erosion, severe weather, and aging infrastructure compounded these challenges, as earthen and stone segments required constant repair. In many regions, the wall fell into disrepair, with some sections crumbling entirely or being repurposed by nearby communities for building materials. Externally, the nature of threats to China's northern frontier evolved. While the Ming Wall had been constructed primarily to deter Mongol incursions, the Mongol tribes themselves had fragmented following the fall of the Yuan dynasty. Smaller nomadic groups, rather than large, organized confederations, now conducted sporadic raids. The mobility and adaptability of these raiders often rendered static fortifications less effective. Even the formidable Ming Wall could not fully prevent incursions into northern towns and farmland. As a result, military strategy increasingly relied on patrols, cavalry units, and local militias rather than the wall alone, highlighting the limits of static defense in the face of evolving tactics. Despite these challenges, the wall retained symbolic and administrative significance. Garrison towns, beacon towers, and watch posts continued to serve as centers of local governance and communication. Officials stationed along the frontier collected taxes, monitored movement, and coordinated military responses to raids. Roads constructed alongside the wall facilitated troop movement and supply distribution, allowing the frontier to remain administratively integrated even as some sections physically deteriorated. The wall's presence, even in partially ruined form, continued to convey imperial authority and acted as a psychological deterrent to would-be invaders. The transition from the Ming to the Qing dynasty in the 17th century brought further changes. The Qing, founded by the Manchus, emerged from the northeast with a powerful cavalry-based military system that relied less on fixed fortifications. After consolidating control over China in 1644, the Qing rulers reassessed the wall's role in frontier defense. Large portions of the wall were no longer strategically necessary, as the Manchus controlled the northern steppes and had integrated formerly independent Mongol tribes into their empire. Consequently, maintenance of the wall became sporadic, with the Qing focusing on military mobility and frontier diplomacy rather than continuous wall fortification. During the Qing period, sections of the wall that had served as critical defensive points fell into ruin. Beacon towers collapsed, earthen embankments eroded, and stone segments were quarried by local populations for construction. Yet, the cultural and symbolic significance of the wall endured. Scholars, travelers, and officials continued to regard it as a monumental achievement, reflecting centuries of engineering, labor, and imperial ambition. The wall became part of local folklore and national memory, a reminder of both the empire's power and the sacrifices made by generations of soldiers and laborers. The decline of the wall during these centuries also underscores the shifting relationship between technology, geography, and strategy. With the advent of firearms, artillery, and increasingly mobile armies, static walls became less effective as the primary line of defense. The Ming and Qing experiences demonstrated that even the most massive and well-constructed fortifications could not substitute for adaptable military strategy, intelligence, and diplomatic engagement. While the wall continued to provide localized protection and administrative control, it no longer functioned as the unassailable barrier envisioned by earlier dynasties. Nevertheless, the wall's enduring presence influenced later historical consciousness. Artists, poets, and historians of the Ming and Qing periods depicted it as a symbol of Chinese ingenuity, perseverance, and civilization. Its silhouette against mountains and deserts evoked stories of human labor, ambition, and resilience. Even as sections crumbled, the wall remained a potent reminder of the lengths to which rulers and their subjects had gone to protect and define the empire. In this way, the decline of the wall was not merely physical but also strategic. It shifted from a central defensive instrument to a cultural and symbolic monument, preserved in memory, art, and local tradition. By the end of the Qing dynasty in the early 20th century, the Great Wall had suffered centuries of neglect. Many sections were damaged by natural disasters, human activity, and the lack of coordinated maintenance. Yet, its legacy endured. The wall had shaped Chinese military strategy, territorial administration, and cultural identity for more than a millennium. It had witnessed the rise and fall of dynasties, the ebb and flow of empires, and the constant interaction between sedentary civilizations and nomadic peoples. Even in decline, it remained a testament to human ambition, endurance, and the capacity to create structures that transcend time. The story of the Great Wall during the late Ming and Qing periods is one of adaptation and transformation. While its physical integrity waned and its military role evolved, it continued to shape the landscape, the frontier, and the collective imagination. The wall's decline highlights the impermanence of even the greatest human constructions, yet it also underscores the enduring influence of vision, labor, and cultural memory. As dynasties rose and fell, the wall persisted, sometimes as a functional defense, sometimes as a cultural icon, but always as a monument to the complex interplay between humanity, geography, and history. Chapter 10: The Great Wall of China, Legends and Myths. The Great Wall of China, stretching over 13,000 miles across northern China, is not merely a feat of military engineering. While its physical grandeur is remarkable, the wall's mystique is amplified by the rich tapestry of legends and myths that surround it. For centuries, Chinese storytellers, historians, and poets have imbued this monumental structure with symbolic and mystical significance, making it not only a historical artifact but a cultural icon teeming with tales of heroism, love, and the supernatural. One of the most famous legends associated with the wall is that of Ming. According to this tale, during the Qing dynasty, a man named Fan Qiliang was conscripted to work on the wall. His wife, Ming Jiangnu, awaited his return, but months turned into years with no news of him. Driven by love and desperation, she traveled to the wall to find her husband. When she discovered that he had died from the grueling labor and had been buried within the wall itself, her grief was so immense that she wept for days. Her sorrow was so powerful that a section of the wall collapsed, revealing the bones of her beloved. This legend is not only a poignant love story, but also a symbol of the human cost of imperial ambition, reflecting the wall's dual nature as a protective barrier and a monument to suffering. Another enduring myth revolves around the construction of the wall itself. It is said that the wall was built with the help of spirits and supernatural creatures. Some legends describe dragons guiding workers along the treacherous terrain, ensuring that the wall followed the natural contours of the mountains. In other versions, celestial beings descended from the heavens to aid mortals in erecting the mighty fortifications, protecting China from invading nomads. These myths serve as metaphors, emphasizing the wall's seemingly impossible scale and the awe it inspired among the people who lived in its shadow. The wall is also entwined with tales of protection against not only human enemies, but supernatural threats. Ancient texts mention spirits, demons, and evil forces lurking beyond the northern borders. People believe that the wall's construction created a spiritual barrier as well, warding off malevolent entities. Local folklore often speaks of mysterious apparitions appearing on the wall at night, with some claiming to see shadowy figures patrolling the battlements, remnants of the soldiers who once guarded the frontier. These stories contributed to the perception of the wall as a living entity, capable of vigilance and defense beyond mere bricks and mortar. In addition to supernatural legends, the Great Wall has inspired numerous myths about the individuals who labored on it. Stories abound of workers who possessed extraordinary strength or endured impossible hardships, often with divine favor or protection. Some tales suggest that the spirits of the fallen continue to haunt the wall, and their presence imbues it with a sense of sacredness. The wall's length, spanning deserts, mountains, and valleys, becomes in mythic terms a journey through human endurance, where every stone embodies a story of sacrifice and heroism. Among the more symbolic myths is the association of the wall with unity and national identity. While the wall was originally constructed to defend against invasions, legends transformed it into a metaphorical bridge between disparate regions of China. According to some folktales, the wall itself is considered a giant dragon lying across the northern landscape, its undulating curves symbolizing strength, protection, and the enduring spirit of the Chinese people. This imagery reinforces the idea that the wall is more than a military structure. It is a living testament to the collective effort and resilience of generations. The wall has also been featured in myths involving celestial events. Ancient astrologers and seers believed that the alignment and construction of the wall had cosmic significance, harmonizing the earthly realm with the heavens. Some stories claim that during certain festivals or lunar phases, the wall would glow under moonlight, signaling a time of auspicious protection for the nation. These celestial associations blend mythology with geography, creating a narrative where the wall acts as both guardian and symbolic axis connecting heaven and earth. Beyond Chinese folklore, the Great Wall has inspired legends across cultures. Travelers and historians from neighboring regions have contributed their interpretations, often portraying the wall as a mystical barrier separating the known world from the unknown. Stories circulated about enchanted gates, hidden treasures, and magical inscriptions embedded in the wall, accessible only to those deemed worthy. Such tales reinforce the perception of the wall not merely as a physical defense, but as a repository of mystery and wonder, a monument that transcends time and culture. In modern times, these myths continue to captivate imagination. Writers, filmmakers, and artists reinterpret the legends of the wall, blending history with fantasy. Contemporary tales often draw upon the legend of Ming, highlighting themes of love, loss, and resilience. Others explore the mystical elements, portraying dragons, spirits, and celestial guardians watching over the wall. These retellings ensure that the Great Wall remains not just a relic of the past, but a living canvas for human storytelling, where myth and history coalesce into enduring narratives. In conclusion, the Great Wall of China is far more than a defensive structure or architectural marvel. Its cultural significance is magnified by the legends and myths woven around it, reflecting the values, fears, and aspirations of generations. Tales of love, loss, supernatural aid, and celestial alignment elevate the wall from stone and mortar to a symbol of enduring human endeavor. As these stories continue to be told and retold, the Great Wall remains a living testament not only to the ingenuity of ancient builders, but to the imaginative spirit of the people who have revered it for millennia. Through myth and legend, the wall's presence extends beyond physical borders, inspiring awe and reflection in all who encounter its grandeur. Chapter 11: The Qing Dynasty, the Wall in Transition. The fall of the Ming Dynasty in 1644 marked a dramatic turning point in China's history. Internal rebellions, economic instability, and corruption had weakened the empire, and the northern borders remained restless with Mongol and Manchu forces pressing. The Ming's Grand Wall, painstakingly rebuilt over decades, had failed to stop the collapse. The Manchus, a powerful ethnic group from the northeast, seized the opportunity, crossing the passes of the wall and establishing the Qing dynasty, which would rule China for nearly 3 centuries. With the rise of the Qing, the role of the Great Wall shifted fundamentally. Unlike the Ming, who had relied on it as a frontline defense against northern incursions, the Qing were conquerors. Their power extended far beyond the wall, encompassing vast regions of Mongolia, Tibet, and Central Asia. The wall, once the edge of the empire, was now an interior monument, a relic of a defensive strategy no longer central to state security. Its strategic importance diminished, yet its symbolic value remained strong. Under Qing rule, the wall saw a slow decline. Military garrisons were reduced or abandoned, and maintenance became sporadic. Sections of the wall that had been critical during the Ming period were neglected, eroded by wind, rain, and time. Soldiers were relocated to new frontiers, and local communities increasingly scavenged stones and bricks for construction and agriculture. Still, even in decay, the wall exerted influence over the land and its people. Villages developed along its route, markets flourished at former passes, and the structure remained a guide to geography, trade, and cultural memory. The Qing dynasty's approach reflected a broader strategic perspective. Rather than relying solely on static fortifications, the Qing focused on mobile armies and diplomacy to manage the northern frontier. They formed alliances with Mongol tribes, incorporated them into the empire's military system, and established a network of forts and posts beyond the wall. This approach reduced the wall's direct military role, yet it remained a potent symbol of Chinese civilization. The stone and brick of the wall reminded both subjects and visitors of past struggles and triumphs, even if its gates no longer rang with the footsteps of Ming soldiers. Culturally, the wall during the Qing era became a lens through which historians, poets, and travelers interpreted the past. Scholars reflected on its construction, marveling at the ambition of the Ming dynasty, and lamented the failures that led to its neglect. The wall inspired literature and art, capturing imaginations far beyond its immediate surroundings. Travelers from Europe and Japan described it in awe, noting the continuity of human endeavor it represented. For the Qing rulers, it was a tool of legitimacy, a visible marker of the empire they now commanded, even if its original defensive purpose had faded. Despite its reduced role, parts of the wall continued to serve as local defense points. In regions where Mongol raids persisted, garrisons were maintained, and signal towers remained functional. Soldiers patrolled certain stretches, guarding trade routes and monitoring movement along the northern border. Yet these were isolated actions, far from the comprehensive defensive system of the Ming era. Much of the wall, particularly in remote mountains or deserts, fell into ruin, its stones scattered and battlements crumbling. Economically, the Qing wall influenced settlement patterns. Towns and markets formed near surviving forts, taking advantage of security and access to trade routes. Local populations relied on the wall for construction materials, using stones for houses, roads, and irrigation. In some areas, the wall became intertwined with daily life, not as a monument of empire, but as a practical part of the landscape. It was both a guide and a resource, shaping human activity long after its military prime had passed. The Qing wall also became a symbol of historical continuity and caution. Scholars and officials used it as a lesson in statecraft. The Ming had built an impressive fortification, yet it had failed to prevent collapse. The wall demonstrated the limits of relying solely on stone and manpower. It underscored the necessity of governance, loyalty, and adaptability. Its presence reminded rulers that security was not merely a matter of physical barriers, but of social cohesion and political stability. During the 18th and 19th centuries, as China faced increasing internal and external pressures, the wall's decline accelerated. Warlords, rebellions, and foreign incursions challenged the Qing authority. Sections of the wall were damaged during conflicts or dismantled for local construction. European observers documented its scale and beauty, but were struck by the evidence of neglect. The wall, majestic yet fragmented, mirrored the changing fortunes of the empire itself. By the late Qing period, the wall had become largely symbolic. It no longer functioned as a frontline defense. Instead, it stood as a witness to centuries of Chinese history. Its ruins conveyed both pride and warning, the might of human ambition and the fragility of even the greatest constructions in the face of social, political, and technological change. Revolutionary movements and modern reforms would soon challenge Qing authority entirely, and the wall would observe yet another transformation in China's landscape and national identity. Nevertheless, even in its diminished role, the wall's influence endured. It shaped geography, trade, settlement, culture, and memory. It remained a testament to the ingenuity, labor, and sacrifices of countless individuals who had built and maintained it over centuries. Though the Qing dynasty relied less on it for defense, the wall's presence was a silent yet constant reminder of China's historical continuity and resilience. The Qing era thus represents a transitional period in the history of the Great Wall. From an active military barrier to a symbolic relic, the wall adapted to the shifting priorities of the empire. Its stones and towers continue to mark the landscape, guide commerce, inspire culture, and remind generations of the human and imperial stories embedded within them. Even as dynasties changed and foreign powers intervened, the Great Wall remained a defining feature of China's historical and cultural identity, waiting for the modern age when it would be rediscovered, celebrated, and preserved as a national treasure. Chapter 12: The Great Wall in the Age of Foreign Encroachment and Modernization. By the 19th century, the Great Wall of China had long ceased to function as the frontline defense it once was. The Qing dynasty, despite its vast territorial control, faced challenges far beyond the northern steppe. Internally, social unrest, corruption, and population pressures weakened central authority. Externally, foreign powers, Britain, France, and later Japan, imposed new threats, using military force and diplomatic pressure to extract concessions from the empire. The wall, a symbol of centuries of protection, now stood largely neglected, witnessing an era of unprecedented transformation. During the Opium Wars of the mid-19th century, the Qing military struggled to resist British forces equipped with modern firearms, ships, and artillery. The wall, designed to withstand traditional siege tactics, could not counter naval bombardment or modern cannon fire. Although far from the main theaters of these conflicts, the wall symbolism contrasted sharply with the vulnerability of the Qing state. Scholars and officials observed that while the Ming had built massive fortifications, these stone barriers alone were insufficient in an age of industrialized warfare. The Taiping Rebellion, 1850 to 1864, further strained the empire. Although the majority of the fighting occurred south of the wall, the northern frontier experienced indirect consequences. Troops stationed along the wall were often reassigned to combat insurgents in distant provinces, leaving sections undermanned and susceptible to erosion and disrepair. Beacon towers fell into ruin, battlements crumbled, and local populations scavenged materials for reconstruction or personal use. The wall, once a disciplined network of defense and communication, became increasingly fragmented. In addition to internal turmoil, foreign incursions reshaped northern China. Russian, British, and later Japanese influence extended into border regions. While the wall could not stop these forces, it remained a geographical and cultural marker. For local communities, it delineated administrative boundaries and historically recognized zones of settlement. Traders, travelers, and scholars continued to use passes and roads along the wall, turning sections into arteries of movement rather than purely military structures. The wall, in essence, adapted to new roles in an era when empire and defense were challenged by modern technology and foreign power. Culturally, the wall's perception shifted. Western explorers and travelers of the 19th century documented its scale and majesty, emphasizing the ingenuity of Chinese engineering while noting the effects of centuries of neglect. Their accounts brought international awareness to the wall, framing it as a monument of human effort, endurance, and the historical continuity of Chinese civilization. Meanwhile, Chinese intellectuals and reformers began to interpret the wall differently, not only as a defensive tool, but as a symbol of national identity, resilience, and cultural heritage in the face of foreign aggression. During the late Qing period, efforts to modernize the military occasionally involved reinforcing certain wall sections. Local officials repaired crumbling towers and cleared pathways to facilitate troop movement. However, these efforts were limited, sporadic, and often insufficient to counter the rapidly advancing technologies of European and Japanese militaries. The wall stone and brick could no longer serve as the decisive shield it once had been. Instead, it functioned as a logistical network for garrisons, observation points, and staging areas for troops equipped with rifles and early artillery. The early 20th century brought even greater changes. The fall of the Qing Dynasty in 1912 and the establishment of the Republic of China marked the end of imperial rule, leaving the wall in a state of ambiguity. Without centralized control, many sections deteriorated further. Farmers, seeking materials for construction, dismantled battlements and walls. Villages expanded into previously fortified areas, and natural erosion accelerated the decay. Despite this, the wall maintained its symbolic power. Nationalists and reformers invoked it in speeches, writings, and educational programs, portraying it as a testament to Chinese ingenuity, perseverance, and the endurance of civilization against both human and natural forces. During the Sino-Japanese War, 1937 to 1945, some wall sections near northern China once again found tactical use. Japanese forces advanced into territories previously demarcated by the wall, and Chinese forces occasionally used its passes and towers for observation and limited defensive maneuvers. The wall, centuries old, demonstrated adaptability even in the context of modern conflict, though its original defensive purpose remained largely ceremonial. Battles around these sections reinforced its role as a historical landmark entwined with the nation's collective memory of struggle and survival. In the post-war period, as China underwent revolutionary change, the Great Wall increasingly transitioned from a military asset to a cultural symbol. Communist leaders emphasized its role in the continuity of Chinese history, presenting it as an emblem of endurance, unity, and the collective effort of countless generations. Restoration projects began in some areas, both to preserve historical memory and to develop sites for tourism. The wall became an educational tool, connecting citizens to centuries of shared history and cultural achievement. The 12th century of the wall's existence thus illustrates the transformation of a military fortification into a multifaceted national symbol. Its stones and towers witnessed wars, rebellions, foreign invasions, and societal change. Sections once built to repel mounted Mongol cavalry now attract millions of visitors, scholars, and filmmakers. The wall's presence shapes the landscape, influences local economies, and inspires literature, art, and national pride. Its survival reflects not only the durability of its construction, but also the enduring significance of human effort, ingenuity, and the aspiration to defend and define a civilization. By the early 21st century, the Great Wall had become one of the most recognized monuments globally, embodying the complex narrative of Chinese history from the ancient dynasties to modern times. Its story of construction, neglect, adaptation, and preservation offers lessons in engineering, strategy, governance, and culture. Although it no longer serves as a defensive barrier, its stones continue to resonate with the weight of human history, a continuous thread linking the ambitions of emperors, the sacrifices of laborers, and the identity of a nation across centuries. The wall in this era reminds us that fortifications are more than stone and mortar. They are repositories of collective memory, symbols of ambition and survival, and enduring witnesses to the sweep of history. Even as China faced invasion, rebellion, and transformation, the Great Wall remained, silently observing, teaching, and inspiring. Its narrative is far from over, and as we move into the modern era, it will continue to play a role in shaping perceptions of Chinese history, resilience, and cultural identity. Chapter 13: The Great Wall in the Modern Era, Restoration and Global Recognition. By the mid-20th century, the Great Wall had transitioned fully from a military fortification into a historical monument and cultural symbol. Decades of neglect, weathering, and human activity had left many sections in ruin, while others had survived relatively intact. With the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949, a new era of preservation and national identity began. The wall, once a line of defense, became a key element in the story of a unified China. Recognizing its historical and cultural importance, the Chinese government initiated restoration projects to protect key sections. The focus was on areas with the greatest structural integrity and accessibility, such as Badaling and Mushiani near Beijing. Engineers and archaeologists worked to stabilize crumbling battlements, repair collapsed watchtowers, and restore pathways for both study and tourism. These efforts were guided by the dual goals of conservation and public engagement, ensuring that the wall could educate and inspire future generations. The restoration process involved a careful balance between historical fidelity and modern accessibility. Original bricks and stones were preserved whenever possible, while missing sections were rebuilt using techniques that mimicked the original construction. Archaeological surveys helped identify areas of particular significance, revealing insights into ancient engineering, logistics, and frontier life. Excavations uncovered remnants of garrisons, signal towers, and artifacts used by soldiers and laborers, providing a vivid picture of life along the wall during the Ming, Qing, and earlier dynasties. Tourism became a central component of the wall's modern identity. Recognized as one of China's most iconic landmarks, the wall attracted millions of visitors annually. Infrastructure was developed to facilitate access, including cable cars, walkways, and visitor centers. Educational programs and guided tours highlighted the wall's historical, cultural, and engineering significance, emphasizing the stories of the dynasties that built, maintained, and defended it. The wall's narrative shifted from a purely defensive structure to a living classroom, connecting modern audiences to centuries of Chinese history. International recognition of the Great Wall further elevated its status. In 1987, UNESCO designated the wall as a World Heritage Site, acknowledging its universal value as an extraordinary feat of engineering and cultural achievement. This designation spurred additional preservation efforts, funding, and global awareness. Scholars from around the world studied the wall, producing research on its construction methods, historical context, and social impact. Films, documentaries, and photography projects brought the wall to international audiences, reinforcing its position as a symbol of China on the world stage. Modern challenges emerged alongside these achievements. Urbanization, tourism, and natural erosion threatened certain sections of the wall. Local communities sometimes dismantled parts of the wall for building materials, while unregulated foot traffic caused wear on vulnerable areas. To address these issues, government agencies and heritage organizations implemented protective measures, including controlled access, maintenance programs, and educational campaigns aimed at fostering respect and stewardship among visitors. Technology also played a role. Digital mapping, 3D modeling, and satellite imaging allowed for precise monitoring of the wall's condition, ensuring that conservation efforts could be targeted effectively. The wall's cultural significance deepened in the modern era. Beyond its architectural and historical value, it became a symbol of national pride, resilience, and continuity. Chinese leaders highlighted the wall as evidence of the ingenuity and perseverance of their ancestors, using it in education, media, and public discourse to reinforce a sense of identity. Artists, writers, and filmmakers incorporated the wall into literature, cinema, and visual arts, exploring themes of endurance, defense, isolation, and connection. The wall was no longer just a frontier. It became a canvas for cultural memory and creative expression. Global tourism transformed the wall into a shared human heritage. Visitors from all continents walked its ancient stones, marveled at its scale, and engaged with its history. Photographs and travel accounts spread worldwide, making the wall an emblem of human achievement comparable to the pyramids, the Colosseum, and other global landmarks. International cooperation in research and preservation further reinforced the wall's status as a cultural bridge between nations, highlighting common values of historical awareness, architectural ingenuity, and the preservation of cultural memory. The wall also served as a lens for understanding China's evolving relationship with modernity. Once a defensive barrier against invaders, it now symbolized adaptation, continuity, and resilience. restoration projects reflected the tension between preserving authenticity and accommodating modern needs. Tourism highlighted the balancing act between accessibility and protection. Scholarly research underscored the complexity of interpreting the wall not only as a military structure but as a social, cultural, and economic phenomenon spanning millennia. Technological advances in recent decades have expanded the wall's reach. Virtual reality tours, interactive exhibits, and online platforms allow global audiences to explore remote and inaccessible sections. Satellite imagery and drone photography have revealed previously unknown stretches, enabling researchers to map the wall's full length more accurately than ever before. These innovations ensure that even sections vulnerable to decay or collapse remain part of the collective understanding of the wall's significance. The wall's endurance through time underscores its multifaceted legacy. From the early construction of the Qing Dynasty to the Ming expansions, Qing neglect, foreign invasions, and modern restoration, the Great Wall has continually adapted to historical and social change. Its stones and towers bear witness to labor, sacrifice, ingenuity, and ambition. They also remind us that monumental constructions are not static artifacts, but living participants in the ongoing story of human civilization. In the contemporary era, the Great Wall stands as a symbol of resilience, national identity, and global heritage. It represents centuries of Chinese history, from empire building and frontier defense to modern cultural pride and international recognition. Each section, whether meticulously restored or weathered by time, tells a story of human endeavor, the relationship between people and their environment, and the evolving nature of civilization itself. The Great Wall's modern role as an educational, cultural, and touristic landmark ensures that its legacy will endure. Its story continues to evolve, demonstrating that historical monuments are not merely remnants of the past but active participants in contemporary life. They inspire, educate, and connect people across time and space, embodying the aspirations, achievements, and resilience of humanity. Chapter 14: Archaeology, Research, and Preservation of the Great Wall. In the modern era, the Great Wall of China has become not only a symbol of national pride, but also a focal point for scientific study, archaeology, and heritage preservation. While its grandeur and history had long been appreciated, the late 20th and early 21st centuries witnessed a surge in systematic research aimed at understanding the wall's construction, development, and role across centuries. Archaeologists, engineers, historians, and conservationists have devoted decades to exploring both the visible and hidden aspects of this immense structure. One of the primary goals of modern research has been to map the wall in its entirety. For centuries, estimates of its length varied, sometimes dramatically, due to its complex, fragmented nature and the varied terrain it traverses. Mountains, deserts, and remote regions concealed many sections, while erosion and human activity had destroyed or altered others. In the early 2000s, the Chinese government, together with international research teams, conducted extensive surveys using satellite imagery, GPS mapping, and ground reconnaissance. These efforts revealed that the wall stretches over 21,000 kilometers, including main walls, secondary walls, and natural barriers integrated into the defensive system. This mapping project not only clarified its immense scale, but also highlighted the diversity of construction techniques employed across different dynasties and regions. Archaeological excavations along the wall have uncovered a wealth of information about the people who built and maintained it. Laborers' tools, pottery, coins, and inscriptions have been recovered, providing insight into the daily lives, skills, and organization of those involved in construction. Evidence suggests that soldiers, conscripted peasants, artisans, and local communities collaborated on various projects, often facing harsh conditions and extreme climates. Excavations of watchtowers and fortresses have revealed storage facilities, barracks, and even rudimentary medical areas, offering a detailed picture of frontier life over the centuries. Research has also focused on construction methods and materials. Different dynasties adapted the wall to the local environment, resulting in diverse techniques. In mountainous areas, stone and rubble were predominant, while in plains and deserts, tamped earth, bricks, and rammed clay were used. The Ming Dynasty, in particular, introduced sophisticated brickwork, mortar formulas, and defensive architecture that remain remarkably resilient today. Engineers study these methods to understand the wall's durability, its ability to withstand erosion, and the challenges faced by ancient builders. Modern scientific analysis, including material testing and structural modeling, has allowed conservationists to develop techniques to stabilize and restore crumbling sections while preserving historical authenticity. One of the most exciting aspects of contemporary research is the discovery of previously unknown or forgotten sections of the wall. Remote sensing technology, drones, and satellite imagery have revealed stretches buried under sand, forest, or urban expansion. In northern deserts and mountainous regions, archaeologists have identified walls and watchtowers that had escaped historical records for centuries. These discoveries have not only expanded knowledge of the wall's true extent, but also provided valuable insights into ancient military strategy, logistics, and the interaction between human engineering and natural landscapes. Preservation and restoration projects have become increasingly sophisticated and interdisciplinary. Teams now include archaeologists, historians, engineers, environmental scientists, and local communities. The goal is to balance historical integrity with modern accessibility. In many cases, restoration involves stabilizing foundations, reconstructing eroded sections with materials and techniques matching the original, and protecting vulnerable areas from tourism-related damage. Some projects use modern materials and methods discreetly to reinforce the structure, ensuring longevity without compromising historical appearance. Public engagement has become a crucial component of wall preservation. Educational programs, museums, and interactive exhibits inform visitors about the wall's history, construction, and significance. Digital platforms allow virtual tours of inaccessible regions. 3D reconstructions illustrate architectural evolution, and documentaries highlight ongoing research and restoration. Such initiatives not only raise awareness, but also encourage responsible tourism and a sense of shared stewardship over this invaluable heritage. International collaboration has further enhanced research and preservation efforts. UNESCO World Heritage designation in 1987 prompted partnerships with global institutions, enabling knowledge exchange, technical assistance, and funding. Comparative studies with other historical fortifications worldwide provide context for understanding the wall's unique scale, design, and cultural importance. Scholars explore not only construction techniques, but also social, economic, and environmental factors that influence the wall's development across different dynasties. Environmental and climatic factors have become central concerns for modern conservation. Sections exposed to heavy rainfall, desert winds, freeze-thaw cycles, and vegetation growth face ongoing degradation. Preservation strategies now incorporate erosion control, vegetation management, and protective barriers to mitigate natural threats. Climate studies help predict future risks and inform preventive measures, ensuring that both restored and original sections endure for generations to come. Community involvement has proven essential for sustainable preservation. Local populations, historically dependent on resources from areas near the wall, are now engaged as stakeholders. Programs provide training in conservation techniques, employment in restoration projects, and education on the wall's historical and cultural value. This integration ensures long-term care and fosters a sense of ownership, blending heritage preservation with social and economic benefits for surrounding communities. The Great Wall's role in contemporary China has evolved to encompass research, education, tourism, and national identity. Archaeology and preservation efforts reveal the complexity of its construction, the scale of human effort involved, and the adaptability of ancient engineering. Each stone, tower, and battlement serves as a testament to centuries of ingenuity, labor, and resilience. Modern technology and interdisciplinary research not only protect these structures, but also deepen understanding of the wall as a living historical artifact. Ultimately, the wall today embodies the convergence of past and present. It is a site of discovery, scholarship, and reflection. Researchers uncover the stories of laborers and soldiers, engineers and strategists, revealing the human dimension behind its monumental scale. Preservation projects demonstrate the challenges of safeguarding cultural heritage in the face of natural decay and human impact. The Great Wall is no longer just a defensive structure or a symbol of empire. It is a dynamic historical record, a focus of global scholarship, and a source of inspiration for millions of people worldwide. The wall's archaeological and preservation narrative reminds us that history is not static. Through research, conservation, and education, the Great Wall continues to teach, inspire, and connect humanity to the ingenuity, determination, and resilience of the people who shaped it. It stands as a bridge between centuries, linking ancient empires with modern societies, and ensuring that the legacy of human effort endures long into the future. Chapter 15: Architecture and Engineering of the Great Wall. The Great Wall of China stands not only as a historical and cultural monument, but also as one of the most remarkable feats of engineering in human history. Stretching thousands of kilometers across diverse terrains, from deserts and plains to mountains and river valleys, the wall exhibits an astonishing variety of construction techniques, architectural features, and adaptive engineering solutions. Each section reflects the resources, technological capabilities, and strategic priorities of the dynasty responsible for its construction. The earliest sections, built during the Warring States period, were primarily tamped earth structures reinforced with wood and stones. These walls were functional yet relatively simple, designed to create physical barriers that slowed invaders. Builders made use of local materials, compacting soil and clay to create walls several meters thick. In some mountainous regions, large stones were laid to stabilize foundations, demonstrating early understanding of load distribution and structural integrity. Though modest compared to later dynasties, these initial walls established principles of frontier defense that would evolve over centuries. The Qing dynasty, 221 to 206 BC, marked the first unification of these fragmented walls into a continuous defensive line. The architecture during this period emphasized integration with natural terrain. Builders exploited mountains, cliffs, and rivers, incorporating them into the defensive system rather than attempting to construct uniformly massive walls in unsuitable locations. Watchtowers, signal stations, and fortresses were strategically positioned to maximize visibility and communication. The use of tamped earth remained prevalent, but the Qing introduced standardized measurements, uniform wall height, and coordinated labor practices, setting a precedent for later dynasties. During the Han Dynasty, the wall extended westward toward the Gobi Desert to protect trade routes and agricultural lands. Engineering challenges included stabilizing walls in sandy soils and managing water supply for troops stationed along remote stretches. Han builders experimented with brick facing and stone reinforcement in key areas, creating hybrid structures capable of withstanding environmental stress. Sections near river valleys featured drainage systems and terrace foundations to prevent erosion, illustrating an early understanding of hydrology in military architecture. The most sophisticated architectural achievements occurred under the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644 CE, when the wall reached its iconic form. Unlike earlier periods, the Ming prioritized durability, aesthetic coherence, and integrated military infrastructure. Bricks and stone became the primary construction materials, with mortar formulas carefully developed for strength and weather resistance. Sections such as Badaling, Simitai, and Jianko exhibit intricate brickwork, crenellated parapets, and watchtowers spaced at intervals that optimize surveillance and defense. The battlements often included arrow slits, firing positions, and parapet walls designed to protect archers and gunpowder troops. Ming engineers employed adaptive strategies based on terrain. In mountainous regions, walls followed steep ridges, creating natural defensive advantages while requiring precise masonry to prevent collapse. In desert areas, foundations were reinforced with compacted sand and gravel layers, sometimes protected by additional stone facing. Flat plain sections were wider, allowing soldiers and supply carts to traverse the wall, with double or triple walls in critical zones. Fortresses and garrison towns were integrated, creating self-sufficient military complexes capable of supporting thousands of troops. Watchtowers are among the most distinctive architectural features of the wall. They vary in size, shape, and function depending on location and period of construction. Square towers dominate northern plain sections, while rectangular or multi-tiered towers appear in mountainous regions. Towers served multiple purposes: observation points, signal stations, storage facilities, and defensive strongholds. Fire, smoke, and flags allowed rapid communication across vast distances, while internal staircases and platforms facilitated troop movement and weapon deployment. The design of these towers reflects a sophisticated understanding of line of sight, defense in depth, and rapid signaling in a pre-modern military context. Gates and passes were another critical architectural element. Located at key river crossings, valleys, and trade routes, these structures controlled movement and served as fortified entry points. Gates were reinforced with towers, inner walls, and drawbridges or heavy doors. Passes such as Jiaiguan, Shanhaiguan, and Jiangwan were meticulously engineered to exploit narrow terrain and create choke points, maximizing defensive effectiveness. The combination of topography and human construction demonstrates an exceptional application of strategic engineering principles. Bridges and stairways also illustrate the wall's architectural ingenuity. In rugged mountains, stone staircases and ramps allowed troops to traverse steep inclines. Some sections feature zigzagging walls and switchback stairs to maintain manageable slopes while preserving defensive integrity. In river valleys, bridges and causeways enabled both military and civilian traffic, ensuring that supply lines and trade routes remained functional without compromising security. These features required precise planning and coordination, reflecting advanced knowledge of civil engineering principles. Defensive innovations extended to the use of materials and wall composition. Bricks and stones were fired and cut to uniform dimensions in kilns and quarries, allowing precise alignment and tight joints. Mortar often included lime, clay, and even rice flour, creating a durable bonding material resistant to weathering. In mountainous areas, large stones formed the core, while bricks finished the exterior. This combination of mass, flexibility, and surface protection contributed to the wall's longevity, enabling many sections to survive centuries of environmental exposure. The wall's architecture also considered human factors. Barracks, storehouses, wells, and granaries were incorporated into fortresses and garrison towns along the wall, allowing soldiers to remain stationed for extended periods. Watchtower interiors were designed for living quarters, storage, and rapid deployment, while battlements provided shelter and firing positions. Such integration of military, logistical, and residential spaces exemplifies a holistic approach to engineering and urban planning in frontier regions. Modern studies of the wall's architecture reveal lessons in adaptation, resourcefulness, and resilience. Engineers today examine load distribution, erosion resistance, and construction methods to understand why some sections endure while others fail. Comparisons between different dynastic periods illustrate evolving strategies, material use, and regional adaptations. These studies also inform contemporary restoration efforts, guiding interventions that respect historical integrity while ensuring structural stability. In essence, the Great Wall is a living record of architectural innovation. From simple tamped earth walls to multi-tiered brick fortresses, it embodies centuries of experimentation, adaptation, and refinement. Its towers, gates, stairways, and battlements demonstrate a mastery of terrain, material, and strategy. Each section tells a story not only of defense, but of human ingenuity, perseverance, and creativity in the face of environmental and military challenges. The wall's architecture transcends its defensive purpose, standing as a monument to both engineering achievement and cultural expression. Its careful integration with natural landscapes, sophisticated construction techniques, and functional design provide insight into the minds of ancient builders and strategists. Today, it inspires engineers, historians, architects, and visitors worldwide, offering a tangible connection to human history and the timeless pursuit of resilience, ingenuity, and mastery over the environment. Chapter 16: Military Tactics, Signal Systems, and Garrisons along the Great Wall. The Great Wall of China was not merely a static barrier. It functioned as a sophisticated military system designed to detect, delay, and repel invading forces. Its effectiveness relied not only on its massive structure, but also on the organization, tactics, and coordination of troops stationed along its length. Understanding the wall's military mechanisms reveals the complexity of frontier defense in Imperial China. Garrisons were strategically placed along the wall, often at intervals determined by terrain, visibility, and strategic value. Major sections, such as passes and river valleys, house large garrisons capable of sustaining prolonged engagements. Smaller towers and outposts dotted the less accessible stretches, serving as early warning points. The number of soldiers varied according to location. Densely populated and highly vulnerable regions could host thousands, while remote areas had smaller units responsible for surveillance and rapid communication. Soldiers stationed along the wall were trained to execute a range of tactical operations. In the event of a northern incursion, troops utilized layered defenses. Outposts and watchtowers provided early warning, allowing forces to mobilize along the wall and concentrate at key passes. Archers and later gunpowder troops manned battlements, providing both long-range harassment and close-quarters defense. The design of the wall enabled defenders to maximize firepower while remaining protected by parapets, crenellations, and machicolations. Signal systems were central to the wall's military efficiency. Watchtowers acted as nodes in a vast communication network. During the day, smoke signals conveyed warnings. At night, fire beacons illuminated the path for rapid information transmission. Flags, banners, and drums supplemented these signals, allowing complex messages to be conveyed across dozens of kilometers within hours. This early warning system enabled troops to respond quickly to threats, demonstrating the integration of architecture, topography, and strategy. Beyond communication, the wall facilitated the movement and coordination of troops. Stairways, ramps, and wide pathways allowed rapid redeployment, while fortified gates controlled access points. Soldiers could traverse steep mountainous sections efficiently, while flat sections permitted movement of horses, carts, and supplies. The design reflected a deep understanding of both human and logistical requirements, ensuring that reinforcements could arrive where they were most needed. Fortifications along the wall incorporated advanced defensive tactics. Arrow slits, parapets, and firing positions allowed defenders to target attackers with minimal exposure. Gatehouses featured multiple layers of defense, including inner courtyards, portcullises, and heavy doors, creating choke points that maximized defensive effectiveness. Some towers contained trap mechanisms, storage for projectiles, and platforms for launching incendiary devices, illustrating the tactical depth embedded in the wall's architecture. Patrol and reconnaissance were vital functions of garrisons. Soldiers conducted regular patrols along their sectors, monitoring for enemy activity, natural hazards, and structural weaknesses. Scouts ventured beyond the wall to track movements of nomadic tribes, enabling commanders to anticipate potential threats. This intelligence gathering complemented the wall's physical defenses, turning it into an integrated military system rather than a simple barrier. Logistical planning was another critical aspect of maintaining an effective defense. Garrison towns included storehouses for weapons, food, and grain, ensuring that troops could remain stationed for extended periods. Water supply systems, wells, and reservoirs were strategically placed to support soldiers in arid or mountainous regions. Local populations often assisted in provisioning garrisons, creating a symbiotic relationship between communities and military forces. Such logistical foresight was essential for sustaining operations across vast, remote stretches of the wall. Military exercises and drills reinforced coordination and preparedness. Soldiers trained in archery, hand-to-hand combat, and, in later periods, gunpowder weapons. Signal exercises ensured rapid and accurate transmission of information, while mock engagements tested defensive strategies. Commanders established protocols for mobilization, resource allocation, and reinforcement deployment, creating a disciplined and adaptive military system. The wall thus functioned as both a defensive structure and a living, operational network. The wall's military organization adapted over time. Early dynasties focused on repelling cavalry incursions, while the Ming dynasty, facing gunpowder-equipped adversaries, incorporated artillery emplacements and reinforced parapets. Qing rulers, less reliant on the wall for active defense, maintained smaller garrisons primarily for surveillance and symbolic presence. Despite these changes, the principles of layered defense, strategic placement, and rapid communication remained central throughout centuries of operation. In essence, the Great Wall's military effectiveness relied on a combination of architecture, human organization, and tactical ingenuity. Its towers, fortresses, passes, and signal systems created a comprehensive defensive network capable of responding to a variety of threats. Soldiers were not passive occupants, but active participants in a coordinated strategy integrating terrain, observation, communication, and rapid deployment. The wall's enduring legacy lies not only in its physical scale, but in the sophisticated military system it supported, demonstrating an unparalleled understanding of frontier defense in pre-modern civilization. The lessons of the wall extend beyond military history. Its integration of engineering, logistics, and human coordination provides insight into ancient problem-solving and resource management. The wall exemplifies how large-scale infrastructure, combined with disciplined organization and strategic planning, can create systems capable of managing complexity across vast and challenging landscapes. Even today, scholars and military historians study the wall as an example of adaptive defense, strategic foresight, and the interplay between architecture and operational effectiveness. The Great Wall's military systems also highlight the human element behind monumental constructions. Soldiers, officers, and laborers contributed not only to building the wall, but also to maintaining, operating, and defending it. Their training, discipline, and ingenuity were as crucial to the wall's effectiveness as the stone, brick, and mortar. The wall, therefore, is as much a testament to human organization and tactical skill as it is to engineering achievement. Ultimately, the wall's military architecture and operational systems demonstrate a remarkable synthesis of construction, strategy, and human resourcefulness. It was not merely a static defense, but a dynamic, adaptable, and multifunctional system, capable of responding to diverse threats across time and terrain. Its enduring presence reflects both the skill of its builders and the strategic vision of those who commanded it, ensuring that the Great Wall remains one of history's most extraordinary examples of military engineering and frontier management. Chapter 17: Economic and Social Roles of the Great Wall. While the Great Wall is most often associated with military defense, its influence extended far beyond warfare. Across centuries, the wall shaped economic activity, transportation, settlement patterns, and cultural exchange in northern China. Understanding the wall's economic and social dimensions reveals its multifaceted role in the development of Chinese civilization. The wall created defined borders that influenced trade and commerce. Passes, gates, and fortresses functioned as control points for the movement of goods, taxes, and travelers. Merchants transporting silk, grain, salt, and other commodities had to pass through designated checkpoints, where officials levied tariffs, collected tolls, and monitored the flow of trade. This control allowed dynasties to regulate economic activity, prevent smuggling, and ensure the security of critical supply routes. Strategic passes like Jiaiguan, Shanhaiguan, and Jiangwan became bustling hubs of commerce, linking northern China with Central Asia and beyond. Roads and pathways integrated with the wall facilitated communication, logistics, and economic activity. Military roads built for troop movements also carried civilians, traders, and officials. These routes enabled the transport of supplies, raw materials, and finished goods across challenging terrains, from mountains to deserts. Villages and towns often developed along these roads, growing into centers of economic exchange and local governance. The wall thus indirectly fostered settlement patterns and the establishment of trade networks, connecting distant regions and supporting local economies. Agricultural communities were influenced by the wall's presence. In some areas, the construction and maintenance of the wall required the labor of local farmers, who contributed manpower and resources. In return, the wall provided relative security from raids and invasions, protecting crops, livestock, and settlements. Farmland adjacent to the wall benefited from this stability, while nearby garrisons created demand for agricultural produce, generating local markets and sustaining rural economies. The wall's indirect role in promoting agricultural stability underscores its broader social significance. Markets, villages, and garrison towns developed unique social structures influenced by the wall. Soldiers, artisans, merchants, and farmers interacted within these settlements, creating communities with specialized functions. Watchtowers, granaries, and barracks coexisted with shops, workshops, and residential areas, blending military, economic, and social functions. Festivals, local trade fairs, and cultural events often centered on walled towns, reinforcing communal identity and cultural cohesion. Over time, these settlements became integral parts of regional life, blending security, economy, and social interaction. The wall also facilitated cultural exchange along its length. Trade routes passing through passes connected China with Central Asia, Mongolia, and beyond, bringing not only goods but also ideas, technologies, and artistic influences. Cultural diffusion occurred through these networks. As local artisans adopted foreign techniques, travelers exchanged knowledge, and communities encountered diverse traditions. The wall's presence shaped the patterns of human interaction, influencing language, art, religious practices, and material culture in frontier regions. Mining and construction industries benefited from the wall's maintenance. The demand for stone, brick, and mortar provided employment for quarry workers, masons, and transporters. Kilns produced bricks in vast quantities, creating secondary economic activity. Roads and logistical networks associated with the wall enabled the movement of materials to remote sections, supporting local economies and encouraging the development of infrastructure. These industries not only contributed to the wall's construction, but also stimulated regional economic growth. The wall's role in taxation and regulation further underscores its economic significance. Gatekeepers, officials, and military administrators collected duties on goods, monitored caravan movement, and enforced trade regulations. This administrative function generated revenue for central authorities, reinforced political control, and maintained order along frontier regions. Economic activity was intertwined with defense, governance, and social organization, creating a complex system in which the wall served multiple functions simultaneously. Socially, the wall influenced population distribution and mobility. The presence of garrisons and fortified towns encouraged settlement in previously marginal or vulnerable areas. Soldiers' families, artisans, and merchants established permanent communities near key sections, creating demographic centers that persisted over centuries. Conversely, in regions where the wall was neglected or inaccessible, populations often remained sparse, highlighting the wall's role in shaping human geography. The wall's impact on culture and identity was equally significant. Its presence symbolized protection, state authority, and the boundary between civilizations. Communities along the wall developed local traditions, folklore, and narratives connected to its towers and passes. Stories of heroism, labor, and defense became part of regional heritage, passed down through generations. The wall functioned as both a physical barrier and a cultural landmark, integrating military, economic, and social dimensions into a cohesive frontier system. In summary, the Great Wall's influence on economy and society extended far beyond its original defensive purpose. It regulated trade, stabilized agriculture, stimulated local economies, and facilitated cultural exchange. Settlements, garrisons, and trade hubs emerged along its length, creating complex social networks and regional identities. The wall shaped human activity in frontier zones, influencing settlement patterns, infrastructure, and cultural development. Its legacy in this domain demonstrates that monumental architecture can affect not only military strategy, but also economic vitality and social cohesion. Through trade, governance, and community integration, the wall acted as an artery of both security and prosperity. Its economic and social functions highlight the interconnectedness of defense, commerce, and daily life in imperial China. The wall was not merely a physical barrier. It was a dynamic system that structured human activity, enabled cultural transmission, and fostered economic networks across centuries. Even today, the wall continues to influence communities, tourism, and cultural understanding. Its historical impact on economy and society remains visible in the layout of towns, preservation of local traditions, and development of infrastructure along its route. The wall exemplifies the interplay between monumental construction, human organization, and the shaping of society, illustrating how defensive structures can simultaneously serve military, economic, and cultural purposes. The Great Wall's economic and social legacy ensures that its importance is multidimensional. From frontier security and trade regulation to community formation and cultural exchange, it played a vital role in shaping the lives of millions. Its stones and towers are more than remnants of warfare. They are markers of human ingenuity, adaptation, and the enduring interconnection between defense, economy, and society. Chapter 18: The Great Wall in Art, Literature, and Popular Culture. The Great Wall of China has long transcended its physical presence, becoming a powerful symbol in art, literature, and popular culture. Its sheer scale, historical significance, and visual impact have inspired countless artists, writers, filmmakers, and creators worldwide. The wall's representation reflects changing cultural attitudes, national identity, and global fascination with human ingenuity. In Chinese art, the wall appears in various forms, from classical ink paintings to contemporary installations. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, scrolls and landscape paintings often depicted sections of the wall snaking over mountains and cliffs, emphasizing its grandeur and integration with the natural environment. Artists use perspective, shading, and composition to highlight both the wall's defensive purpose and its aesthetic appeal, portraying it as a bridge between human endeavor and the natural world. These artworks served as both documentation and artistic interpretation, preserving the wall's image for future generations. Literature has also played a significant role in shaping the wall's cultural meaning. Chinese poets and writers frequently reference the wall in their works, using it as a metaphor for perseverance, separation, protection, and the passage of time. Classical poems evoked imagery of soldiers stationed along the wall, the vast landscape stretching beyond, and the solitude of frontier life. Historical narratives chronicle the efforts of emperors, generals, and laborers, blending fact and legend to create a rich tapestry of stories that continue to influence modern interpretations. Folk tales and regional myths often focused on heroic figures defending the wall, integrating elements of morality, duty, and cultural identity into the narrative. The wall's influence extends beyond traditional media into modern visual culture. Photography, film, and television have brought the wall to global audiences, capturing its monumental scale and dramatic settings. Documentaries explore its construction, history, and contemporary significance, while feature films use the wall as both backdrop and plot device, symbolizing struggle, endurance, or national pride. Action and historical films often depict battles along the wall, integrating historical knowledge with cinematic spectacle. Its iconic status ensures that it remains instantly recognizable and evocative, whether in educational content or entertainment. In contemporary art, the wall continues to inspire innovative interpretations. Installations, digital art, and multimedia projects explore its history, construction, and symbolism. Artists experiment with scale, perspective, and interactivity, creating immersive experiences that allow audiences to engage with the wall in new ways. Some projects reinterpret sections of the wall to comment on contemporary social or political themes, demonstrating its continued relevance as a cultural and artistic reference point. Global popular culture has embraced the wall as well. It appears in video games, graphic novels, and literature, often representing human ingenuity, endurance, and the blending of civilization with nature. Its image is frequently used in advertising, branding, and tourism promotion, reinforcing its status as a worldwide symbol of China and human achievement. Through these media, the wall's reach extends far beyond its physical location, shaping perceptions and cultural associations around the world. The wall's symbolic role has evolved over time. Initially a defensive structure, it became a representation of imperial authority, frontier perseverance, and national unity. In art and literature, it embodies resilience, creativity, and the tension between human ambition and the natural environment. Modern representations emphasize these qualities, while also exploring historical memory, identity, and cultural continuity. The wall's visual and narrative presence bridges centuries, connecting contemporary audiences with the experiences, labor, and imagination of those who built and maintained it. Educational programs and cultural institutions further enhance the wall's presence in the arts. Museums, exhibitions, and interactive installations showcase both historical and artistic interpretations, combining artifacts, photographs, and creative works. Students, researchers, and the general public engage with these representations, learning about engineering, history, and cultural significance through immersive experiences. The wall thus functions not only as a subject of artistic inspiration, but also as a medium for education and cultural dialogue. The influence of the wall in literature and popular culture also fosters reflection on broader human themes. Writers and filmmakers explore ideas of defense and vulnerability, isolation and connection, permanence and decay. The wall becomes a canvas for exploring historical events, personal stories, and societal transformations. Its representation often emphasizes endurance and the relationship between humans and the environment, providing a metaphorical lens for interpreting contemporary challenges. Cultural events, festivals, and tourism further integrate the wall into artistic and popular expressions. Photographers and painters capture seasonal variations, lighting effects, and dramatic landscapes. Festivals celebrate historical anniversaries, traditional crafts, and storytelling associated with the wall. Artists collaborate with local communities to produce performances, exhibitions, and educational content that honor its historical and cultural importance. These activities ensure that the wall remains a living, dynamic component of cultural life, rather than a static relic of the past. Ultimately, the Great Wall's presence in art, literature, and popular culture demonstrates its multifaceted significance. It is a source of inspiration, a medium for education, and a symbol of human achievement. Its representation reflects both historical realities and creative imagination, allowing audiences to explore the wall as a physical, cultural, and symbolic entity. From classical ink paintings to virtual reality experiences, the wall continues to captivate and connect people across time and geography. Through artistic interpretation and cultural representation, the wall transcends its original defensive function. It becomes a storyteller, a teacher, and a symbol of collective memory. Each painting, poem, film, or installation contributes to the ongoing narrative of the wall, ensuring that its legacy resonates in the minds and hearts of people worldwide. The Great Wall, therefore, exists not only as a monumental construction, but also as a vibrant cultural and artistic force, continually shaping how humanity understands its history, achievements, and aspirations. Chapter 19: Tourism, Modern Infrastructure, and Cultural Significance of the Great Wall. The Great Wall of China today is not merely a historical relic. It is a living, vibrant site attracting millions of visitors each year. Its monumental scale, dramatic landscapes, and deep historical resonance make it one of the most iconic tourist destinations in the world. Tourism has transformed both the wall itself and the surrounding regions, influencing infrastructure development, local economies, and global cultural perception. Tourist activity is concentrated in accessible sections, such as Badaling, Muxianyu, Jinshanling, and Simitai. These areas have undergone extensive modernization to accommodate large numbers of visitors, while preserving historical authenticity. Cable cars, stairways, and paved pathways allow visitors to explore steep and rugged areas that would otherwise be inaccessible. Observation platforms, signage, and information centers provide historical context, helping tourists understand the wall's construction, purpose, and cultural significance. These interventions balance accessibility with preservation, enabling the wall to be both experienced and protected. Infrastructure development surrounding the wall has had a profound impact on local economies. Hotels, restaurants, and souvenir shops cater to domestic and international tourists, creating employment and business opportunities. Transportation networks, including roads, bus services, and rail links, connect remote wall sections with major cities such as Beijing, enhancing regional accessibility. Tourism also supports local crafts, traditional food production, and cultural performances, generating sustainable economic benefits for communities along the wall. Tourism management requires careful planning to minimize environmental and structural impact. High visitor volumes can accelerate erosion, damage ancient masonry, and threaten fragile ecosystems. Conservation strategies include controlled access, protective barriers, guided tours, and restoration projects. Seasonal closures and visitor limits are sometimes implemented to allow maintenance and prevent overcrowding. These measures reflect the challenge of balancing public access with the need to preserve a centuries-old monument. Cultural interpretation is a key aspect of tourism along the wall. Museums, visitor centers, and exhibitions provide historical context, displaying artifacts, photographs, and reconstructions of ancient wall sections. Interactive displays and multimedia presentations illustrate construction techniques, military strategies, and daily life of soldiers and laborers. Cultural programming, such as festivals and educational workshops, engages both local populations and tourists, deepening understanding of the wall's significance and promoting heritage awareness. The Great Wall also plays a symbolic role in national identity. For China, it represents resilience, ingenuity, and historical continuity. Its preservation and promotion as a tourist destination reinforce cultural pride and international recognition. Globally, the wall is an emblem of human achievement, attracting visitors who marvel at its scale, engineering, and historical importance. It serves as a bridge connecting people from diverse backgrounds to a shared human past. Modern technology enhances the tourism experience and supports conservation. Drones, 3D mapping, and virtual reality provide alternative ways to explore remote or fragile sections of the wall. Digital platforms offer virtual tours, historical reconstructions, and educational content, reaching audiences who cannot visit in person. These innovations allow broader engagement, enhance understanding, and reduce physical strain on the monument itself. Tourism also fosters academic research and international collaboration. Scholars, engineers, and conservationists study visitor impact, preservation techniques, and cultural interpretation methods. Collaboration with global institutions helps develop best practices in heritage management, sustainable tourism, and infrastructure planning. The wall becomes not only a tourist destination, but also a living laboratory for conservation science, cultural heritage management, and public engagement. The wall's impact extends to global culture and media. Its iconic image appears in films, television, literature, and advertising, attracting tourists who seek to experience the monument firsthand. International visitors contribute to cross-cultural exchange, bringing global perspectives to local communities and reinforcing the wall's status as a symbol of shared heritage. Tourism transforms the wall from a remote frontier structure into a dynamic, interactive site that continues to shape cultural perceptions. Communities along the wall have adapted to the dual roles of heritage preservation and tourism. Local residents often participate in guiding, crafting, hospitality, and cultural programming. Educational programs teach traditional skills, history, and storytelling associated with the wall. These initiatives foster a sense of stewardship, linking economic opportunity with cultural responsibility. Residents become both beneficiaries and guardians of the wall, ensuring its protection while participating in its continued relevance. In conclusion, the Great Wall's modern role as a tourist destination, cultural landmark, and economic catalyst demonstrates its enduring relevance. Tourism has enhanced public engagement, infrastructure development, and cultural appreciation while necessitating careful preservation and sustainable management. The wall bridges past and present, offering visitors a tangible connection to centuries of human labor, ingenuity, and historical experience. Its significance extends beyond China, inspiring global admiration, education, and cultural exchange. The Great Wall exemplifies how historical monuments can serve as focal points for tourism, economic development, and cultural identity. Its preservation, accessibility, and integration into modern infrastructure provide lessons for heritage management worldwide. By balancing protection, education, and visitor experience, the wall continues to inspire and connect people, ensuring that this monumental achievement remains both a historical treasure and a living, accessible symbol of human accomplishment. Through tourism, infrastructure, and cultural engagement, the wall remains a dynamic entity. It embodies centuries of history, engineering skill, and social organization, while simultaneously shaping contemporary cultural and economic landscapes. Its legacy as a physical and symbolic structure endures, linking ancient civilizations with modern societies, and providing insight into the enduring human desire to create, protect, and celebrate remarkable achievements. Chapter 20: The Great Wall, Legacy, Continuing Discovery, and Open Horizons. The Great Wall of China stands today as a testament to human ingenuity, endurance, and ambition. Stretching across mountains, deserts, rivers, and plains, it has withstood centuries of natural forces, social upheavals, and human interaction. Yet the wall is far more than an ancient monument frozen in time. It is a living symbol, continuously revealing new stories, discoveries, and interpretations for those who study, explore, and traverse its length. Despite extensive research, much about the wall remains mysterious. Archaeologists and historians continue to uncover hidden passages, previously undocumented fortresses, and traces of earlier construction phases. Recent technological advancements, such as LiDAR scanning, ground-penetrating radar, and satellite imagery, have revealed voids, tunnels, and structures buried beneath centuries of erosion. Each new discovery reshapes our understanding of how the wall was built, how it functioned, and the people who contributed to its creation. This ongoing process highlights that the wall is not a static artifact but a dynamic historical narrative, constantly expanded by human curiosity and exploration. The wall's enduring legacy lies not only in its physical presence, but also in its symbolic resonance. For China, it represents unity, resilience, and the vision of past generations who sought to protect and define their civilization. Globally, the wall has become an emblem of perseverance, human creativity, and monumental achievement. Its image evokes a mixture of awe, respect, and inspiration, transcending geographical and cultural boundaries. Scholars, travelers, and everyday observers continue to marvel at the scale, ingenuity, and artistry embodied in its stones and battlements. Scientific and engineering studies continue to reveal lessons from the wall's construction. Engineers analyze ancient techniques for stabilizing walls on mountainsides, building durable watchtowers, and blending structures into challenging landscapes. Conservationists study the effects of weathering, human traffic, and natural erosion to develop sustainable preservation strategies. In each discipline, the wall serves as both a case study and a source of inspiration, bridging ancient ingenuity with contemporary problem-solving. The human stories embedded in the wall continue to captivate historians and storytellers. Each brick and stone bears witness to the labor of countless workers, soldiers, and artisans who contributed to its construction. Their lives, sacrifices, and ingenuity are recorded not in writing alone, but in the architecture itself. Folklore, poetry, and oral histories preserve their experiences, blending fact and legend into a rich cultural tapestry. Modern media, including films, documentaries, and literature, continue to reinterpret these stories, ensuring that the human dimension of the wall remains alive in contemporary consciousness. Environmental and geographical studies also underscore the wall's interaction with the natural world. Its construction shaped landscapes, influenced soil and water systems, and altered local ecosystems. Scientists study these interactions to understand how large-scale human projects affect environments over centuries. Lessons learned from the wall inform modern engineering, urban planning, and sustainable design, illustrating how historical constructions can guide contemporary thinking. Tourism continues to connect people from around the globe with the wall's history and culture. Each visitor experiences the monument differently. Some focus on its scale and grandeur, others on the historical context, and yet others on the natural beauty of the surrounding landscape. These interactions generate ongoing interest, dialogue, and scholarship, ensuring that the wall remains culturally and socially relevant. The way people engage with the wall evolves, but its ability to inspire remains constant. The wall also serves as a lens through which we examine broader historical patterns. Its construction reflects shifts in technology, governance, military strategy, and social organization over centuries. The wall is a record of human adaptation, demonstrating how societies respond to threats, utilize resources, and balance ambition with practicality. By studying it, historians gain insight into imperial priorities, labor systems, and frontier life, while the general public gains appreciation for the complexity and foresight involved in such monumental undertakings. Yet the story of the Great Wall is far from complete. New discoveries, research, and cultural interpretations continuously add layers to our understanding. Sections of the wall remain unexplored or partially studied, suggesting that much of its narrative lies waiting beneath stones, vegetation, and time itself. Future generations of scholars, engineers, and adventurers will continue to peel back these layers, uncovering hidden details, solving enduring mysteries, and deepening appreciation for the wall's scope and significance. In this sense, the wall embodies an open horizon. It is both a historical achievement and a living project of discovery. Its legacy encourages curiosity, innovation, and engagement, inviting us to explore not only the physical structure but also the human stories, cultural meanings, and environmental contexts intertwined with it. Each journey along the wall, whether physical, scholarly, or imaginative, contributes to an ongoing dialogue between past and present, revealing that history is not static, but a continuously unfolding narrative. The Great Wall of China reminds us that monumental achievements are not confined to the past. Its stones endure, but so do the ideas, lessons, and inspirations it embodies. As researchers uncover new findings, as visitors tread ancient paths, and as artists and writers reinterpret its image, the wall remains dynamic. Its story is unfinished, an invitation to future generations to continue exploring, questioning, and marveling at what human determination can accomplish. Ultimately, the Great Wall stands as a bridge across time, connecting centuries of history with contemporary curiosity and imagination. It is a monument not only to defense and empire, but to the enduring human spirit, creativity, and the unending pursuit of knowledge. Its stones whisper stories of labor and strategy. Its towers watch over landscapes both ancient and modern, and its stretches continue to inspire awe. While we have learned much, the wall's full narrative remains open, a challenge and a gift for those who seek to understand it in all its depth and complexity.